everyone. Rob Cesternino here, and we are with our week 1 of the Circle Roundtable streaming live here on Rob Has a Podcast. And I'm so excited to bring in our esteemed Circle panel here. We are streaming live. First, let me welcome in a man who has recapped every episode of the Circle so far, Mr. Taran Armstrong. Taran, how are you?
I'm doing really, really great. Very excited to be here. We've got some wonderful people to talk Circle with today.
Yes. Okay. All right. Of course, let's get to some of our regular panel here of people that you would have heard before on Rob's podcast. Of course, with us talking about people in a house for the first time. Jessica Liese is here. Jessica, how are you?
I'm great, Rob. I'm just really glad that I didn't waste my lashes.
No, thank goodness. Thank goodness. A man who knows a thing or two about being catfished, Mr. Mike Bloom.
Here at Rob, as messy as Joey's cake work, ready to make a big old colorful situation of the Circle.
Okay, and also here with us, we are so lucky. We are so grateful to have here with us a honest to goodness Circle veteran from the UK season 2 of the Circle. Please welcome the great Tim Wilson is here. Tim, how are you?
Hello, I'm so happy to be there, but it's incredibly late here in the UK. But I'm just about managing to keep awake.
Okay, all right. Let us know if you need to buffer at all during the podcast. If you need to go.
Tim, do you need a big party? Do you need lights flashing and fun sunglasses to keep you up for a little while?
No. I think I just need the incredible entertainment of your conversation.
Taran, can you tell us how were you able to track down Tim?
I found him on Instagram, actually. I sent him a message on Instagram, and he was very responsive. And then we got chatting on Skype.
Yep, absolutely. I love my Instagram. So it's all new. It's all new to me.
Okay,
I hadn't any Instagram until about 3 months ago. Now, wow.
All right. Well, Tim, if for anybody who doesn't know, Tim was from the UK season 2 of The Circle. We're not going to reveal any results from season 2 of the UK Circle. I know a lot of people still plan on watching it or have gotten hooked on The Circle and want even more and are watching it in between episodes. So we're not going to reveal any results, but Tim is here to lend his expertise on week 1 of The Circle. If you have not listened or if you have not seen the first 4 episodes of The Circle on Netflix, we will be talking about that and spoilers through the first 4 episodes, the first full week of The Circle. So come back and listen to us if that is not the case after you've seen the episodes. Of course, Taran has episodes 1, 2, and 3 up in our brand new Circle podcast feed at robhaswebsite.com/Circle podcast. Last I looked up, the number 15 in the TV and film charts on iTunes. So make sure you subscribe, leave us feedback and star ratings. Taran, of course, great job. You and I talked about episode 1. Great job with Haley Strong on episode 2 and Amon on episode 3. It was so fun getting to hear you talk to Haley Strong, I feel like, for the first time.
I mean, I've spoken to Haley Strong before.
Yeah, but I feel like that it's so rare to get that combination.
It is. I enjoy it. She's been on some live feed updates before, and I've always enjoyed that experience. But always a good time talking to Haley.
Okay. All right. Jess, I know that The Circle, when I found out that you were going to be on this podcast, I was so excited because I feel like that this is not something that I would have thought was in your wheelhouse because you're famously not a Big Brother person. What drew you to The Circle?
Everybody's been raving about it, and I've been very immersed in UK reality shows right now because I'm in the middle of an epic Great British Baking Show binge. But everybody was saying this was a great show and you could check it out. And I've got Netflix and I don't have a whole lot going on right now. And I will say the people on this show are very Big Brothery. And I do kind of get why people gravitate toward it when they're coming from that world. But I'm also finding a lot to love about it.
Okay. And Mike Bloom, your reaction to The Circle US?
So in terms of my own background with The Circle, when I knew this was coming, I binged a bit of the UK seasons, and the first episode, particularly of the US, follows the UK model to a T, especially in terms of like the course of events of here's someone masquerading as their girlfriend. The eliminated player is going to get a chance to visit somebody, and it does come from the same production company. So I think anyone who is worried about, much like many British properties are bastardized by American production companies, I think people had those worries assuaged within the first episode. It's so interesting because I do agree with Jess that at least with this first episode, everyone really came in at a 10. And I think once we all cumulatively adjusted our volumes to a lower level, we saw people calm down and I think really settle into the game as well. I'm assuming maybe the eliminations brought some stakes into it, but look at a character like Joey, for example. I mean, he's like a living jar of marinara sauce, but by the end of the fourth episode, he's having like heart-to-hearts with Miranda. And I think that's a nice microcosm of how you get used to, and I think you settle in with these characters where even if they do have more outlandish personalities, they either grow on you or they get ground down a bit by the stakes of the circle.
Okay, and Tim, the chat is so excited to see that you're here with us. Can you tell us your impressions of, have the Americans ruined the circle yet?
Oh, no. I think there were so many one-liners popped out over these 4 episodes. The thing which really stuck in my mind is that there was an extraordinary scene with Alana on the bed, saying that you only have you only have one chance to make a first impression. I think she was unpacking at the time, but she was posing extraordinarily. But then about 2 episodes later, Shooby says, "Oh, I scribbled it down somewhere when I was first impressions don't matter," and I thought, I rather like his approach. I warmed to him so much over the course of the first 4 episodes. I just think his smile is utterly engaging. But equally, as the episodes have gone on, you've seen various characters sort of pop out. And Joey, as you said, is one who really pops out, and he inhabits the thing, and he's got so many sides to him, and it's so attractive. I would say Shooby and Joey are unbelievably engaging.
Now, Tim, you realize in saying that Joey's attractive, he's just entered your chat now, right? To start flirting with you. He's doing he's on his way.
What I'm hearing, bro.
It's as I say, it's just engaging, and the point is with the circle. I think unlike so many other games, you sort of consciously are involved in 2 jobs. You're involved in playing the game in the circle in the house, and then you're playing the game for the viewers. And some people get that right, and some people don't quite get that right. And I think Joey and Shooby have absolutely hit the nail on the head, but certainly by episode 4.
Okay, so we're going to talk about the week as a whole, but Taran, we need to discuss the big events from episode number 4, and we lost another person from the circle. It was Antonio, who became the second person out from the circle. Where did it all go wrong for Antonio?
I think that it's something that I think we were talking about even as early as episode 1, which is that his conversation style just seemed a little too transactional. That when he was talking to people, they kind of got the sense that he was trying to get something from them, and that didn't work out too well for him. And I know that's something that Tim, that you have experience with, like, when people are talking to you, and this is something that I pointed out, is that I think that it's even more difficult to be strategic and try to play people over text, because I think people have their guard up even more than they would in person. And so you have to be even more subtle. You can't do things like, oh, on one condition, I'll do this. We'll protect each other. You can't do things like, say that, I've got your back. You've got mine too, right? It's too obvious, and people are going to be very sketched out by that. They don't want to feel like they're being played in any way.
Can I come in there, because there's a second point to that, to the being played. The other thing which is really difficult about texts in this sort of game is humor doesn't work. Jokes simply go astray. And what was fascinating, I think it was Melanie, she made a joke. I can't remember with Sammy, suggesting Sammy was a catfish, and Sammy took it very badly.
Yeah.
And in fact, there was a moment where I was looking at it, I thought Sammy was crying. I don't think she was. I think she was just sort of pulling a face. But you know, my heart goes out to Sammy, of course. And I've been in that situation. I know what it's like when somebody is playing a joke. Sometimes quite an elaborate joke. Sometimes it's part of the story. You know, in a way, the whole game is a sort of big practical joke, a sort of Venus spas. But it's very difficult to recover from that. And when you're on your own, you get very paranoid and sort of lost. And you think, oh, where is my reality? These people are making sort of these sort of jokes. I am the butt of their humor, and you don't really have any comeback. So one has to be very careful about the jokes, and one has to be very careful about this transactional tone. And I think, I agree with you entirely. I think Antonio misjudged that right at the beginning.
Yeah.
Jess, do you have any thoughts about the rise and fall of Antonio, where he started the week as an influencer and ended up being the second person eliminated?
Well,
Sorry.
Yes. I do think that to Taran's point, I think he did speak in very transactional terms, but he had this sort of thinly veiled contempt for everybody else in the house. He thought he was playing everybody, and it never occurred to him that somebody else would be playing him. And if they were trying, he felt like he was going to know that. And you would see these conversations. And actually, I'll tell you the moment that I was in on this show. I was all in on this show in the first episode when he is talking to Mercedes and they have this conversation, and then they both step back from the conversation and you each see them say, I have this person right where I want them. And I'm in control and I'm manipulating them. And those two things can't both be true. Someone is the manipulator and somebody is the manipulatee. And I think Antonio never stopped to think that other people were also playing the same game he is playing. They were also using the same tactics he was using. He just thought he'd come right in and be smarter than everybody all the time. I think it was his hubris that eventually got the better of him.
Yeah, I mean, when you walk in, I think the minute Antonio, because I'm going to use Alana's pronunciation of his name, like she studied in Barcelona right before coming over.
I believe he does play basketball there.
Right, but I don't know why she walked in with this, like, I don't know, like level 301 Spanish pronunciation when everyone else is like, Antonio, it's fine. But I think the minute he lost was when he walked in with this player mentality. I mean, you hear it on the way out. He's like,
player life.
He's like, keep it player.
Keep it player.
I'm going to take it like, I no hard feelings. I'm a player. Like, that's how he approached every single moment of the game, though, right? Is like, hey, no hard feelings. We talk about this with other reality TV show contestants of how athletes, it's a little bit of a double-edged sword where like they know to leave it on the court, but at the same time in a game that's very interpersonal, that's not great to divorce your emotions away from your gameplay. And Antonio does exactly that. And as a result, he comes across as so inauthentic to everybody that, you know, when he ends up falling at the bottom of the rankings, he says, oh, that's just because I was the influencer. But no, people were like skeeved out by you even before you were at the top.
Yeah, Taran, going back to the anonymous questions, that he did not do a great job in answering the questions that were posed to him.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about like the strategy of like how to ask a difficult question, and he got a difficult one, but his answer, he didn't handle it super well. We saw Mercedes kind of throw off a difficult question, but when
Wait,
Antonio,
the question was why who is your closest ally here, right?
Yeah, like have you made any allies, and if so, who? And at first he was like, my only ally is, I think he said God. But then he said, I ain't no snitch, which is just like a really sketchy thing to say. I think the only way to answer this question is to either go like really genuine with it and be like, look, I've made relationships with people, I don't know about alliances, but I've certainly, made some friendships that I think I value. Or you can just kind of like jokingly sort of like, throw it aside. But I don't think saying I ain't no snitch, it implies that you're being really strategic and that you do have alliances. And if I'm not somebody that has a concrete alliance with Antonio, I'm really worried about that statement.
Mike, we got to see where then Antonio got to go visit one of the other residents of the circle. Of course, we get the slow motion 60 frames per second walk to one of the rooms, and he ends up going to go visit Mercedes, but finds Karen instead.
Yes. And I mean, Antonio's vocabulary was pretty much 60% just the word no. That's pretty much all he said as soon as he walked in and saw Karen/Mercedes. Karen's such an interesting person where, like, I love her as a character. I think she didn't make great decisions in the first couple episodes. I thought she did actually pretty well deflecting the catfish target that Antonio starts to throw off as a last minute grenade onto somebody else. But I mean, yeah, they have a very interesting relationship to the point where she gives some very interesting advice to Antonio as he leaves
I actually
the
have a
circle.
clip of that for you, Mike. Here is the parting advice that Karen, aka Mercedes, had for Antonio.
Bro, blow it down. Make sure you pull out if you feel a tingle. Don't make no illegitimate babies, bro.
Whoa.
Listen, I think we need Karen doing PSAs, personally. I think, we need any sort of sex education going on, and whatever media needs to pervade people's minds. The Circle is a very young, skewing show. I'm a little concerned by the tingle aspect of it, personally.
First off, I'm pretty sure this is not the best advice for a PSA. Like, I think that I'm not a health educator, but I think that that I believe coitus interruptus is not the recommended birth control
You're saying
method.
Don't pull out when you feel a tingle.
Well, my thing is, if you feel a tingle, if you feel a tingle, someone's probably in there, right? Like, I'm very unnerved by the whole tingle aspect of it.
All right. Well,
I'm unnerved by the direction this conversation's taking.
It's one of those things where, like, you heard her say it, and I was like, I'm pretty sure I understood what that meant, but I felt like I must have missed some context for that. I'm just gonna let it happen. And, I'm not gonna question it.
I think at that point, Taran, I was more obsessed with the grammar at the beginning, because I think Mercedes was saying something about alliances with who. I think surely that should be with whom.
Yeah.
Sorry, but I was so excited by when Antonio goes into Mercedes' room. Did you notice how he sat opposite her? He didn't sit on the sofa.
Mm-hmm.
That was very uncomfortable, I felt.
Yeah. I think it's, and I think that they're trying to go for this, where there's like a really stark contrast. I think that they generally try to do that between the person they're catfishing as and the real person, so that when somebody walks in, they kind of feel uncomfortable. Like, who even is this person? I think it's probably kind of like a scary feeling to run into somebody that you did not expect to see. But certainly, that's something that I think that. I don't know. So I think that, like, that's probably where the distance came from. Like, right? Like, he's probably like, do I know who you are?
Right. Yeah, you compare that to Alana sitting down on the sofa with Sammy, right? Like, it's, as Tim said, it's all about body language and placement in the room, where I think they both felt betrayed, but Antonio's like, oh, I thought I was closest with you, but now I don't even know you. And I thought that was a beautiful scene for Karen as well, because I think that just, her and Seaburn are really the two big catfishers at the moment, even though we're now introduced to Alex/Adam at the end of this, which seems like the entire concept of summer stock just summed up in one person. But I think that, she really vocalizes something of her basically serving her time in the circle as like a representation of not judging a book by its cover, whereas maybe Seaburn's going for a different sort of reasoning behind, masquerading as Rebecca. Karen's almost doing it to sort of like send a message to herself and also to others.
I also think she has one of the more successful techniques when it comes to being a catfish, which is what she said in terms of, I am being who I am. This is just the skin. Like, this is just,
Right.
you know, the face to it, but I'm being true to myself. Because I think that when people go in as a catfish trying to be a different personality, they often run into problems where it's hard to open up because it's a hollow shell, right? But if she's being herself, just, you know, with this face, it kind of works better.
Jess, I thought that was a very moving moment between Karen and Antonio. I felt like that Antonio like kind of understood by the end of the conversation.
I feel like that scene has more impact if you've never seen the MTV series Catfish, because that is literally the conversation they have at the end of every episode of MTV Catfish.
What is it like? Well, I didn't want you to judge me based on my face.
You wouldn't have talked to me if you would have seen the real me.
Yeah. So go away. By the way, pull out. See you again.
No. Although I think it was a different version of the conversation we would have seen than if we would have seen Antonio go and visit Seaburn, Taran.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I think like, so why are you catfishing, bro? And he would have been like, well, you know, I feel like hot girls are more popular. So, but I don't know. I feel like Antonio probably would have been like, you know,
me if I was the real me.
Respect. You know, I get that. Hot girls are more popular. I don't know. I feel like it might have gone the same way.
I don't know if it would have gone the same way.
Do you think he still would have turned the knife at the last second in his video and been like, hey, by the way, there's a catfish here. Bye. If he was talking to Rebecca.
Yeah. Tim, what'd you make of that?
I found that astonishing. And I was thinking, but I also think that Karen didn't really handle that as well as she could have done. She was immediately trying to distance herself from the idea that she'd been visited. And certainly if I had been there in the apartment, I would have smelt a rat immediately. And I think somebody might have already done so. I'm waiting to see what happens in the next few episodes, because I think she might have betrayed herself.
Yeah. Like coming out in front of it, and you know, like nobody's talking about it, but she feels the need to like come out and be like, yeah, man,
her second attempt was better than her first attempt. Her first attempt seemed to me to be very gauche.
Yeah, the one with Chris.
Yeah. But the second one with, who was the second one with? I can't remember who the second.
The second one was with Chris. The first one was with Sammy.
Ah, yes. The first one with Sammy was really poor. The second one was a bit better. But
yeah, I thought that the one with Sammy went okay. I thought the one with Chris, I thought that Chris walked away from that conversation being much more skeptical.
Oh, really?
I kind of got that sense too.
I don't know.
Also, it's in the difference of how they express their suspicions. I think Chris wears his heart on his sleeve a little bit harder than Sammy does.
Well, I don't know. I actually think I agree with Tim. I think the choice to reveal it to Chris was a great idea, because Chris, even a few days in the circle, is the conduit of information right now. He is the gossip girl. And I feel like if you want information to spread, if you want a rumor to run rampant, you tell Chris, because Chris is going to tell everybody.
It's interesting.
Isn't Chris tremendous, actually? Just sort of so lively.
I love his like first in, last in, or first in and then first out method. Like, I love how much he Irish goodbyes people, because it's almost like he's the technique of like leave them wanting more, you know. And I think you guys talked about this in your premiere podcast, that obviously I think the conversations are going on for much longer than the 3 minutes we see on screen. But I think while it may come across like rude to other people to just have someone start a conversation and then leave it after 5 minutes, like Chris is a type of person that can pull that off, and he does it very cheekily, not referring to the time he ran ass naked through the woods that one time.
Yeah. If he feels it tingle, Mike.
Yeah, he pulls out.
Just is Chris the master of the George Costanza of the go out on a high note?
That was the first thing I thought of. But
Yeah.
I also, this is something I heard somebody, I was reading through various people's impressions on social media today of the series so far, and a lot of people have said that it reminds them of playing a Survivor ORG. And I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole, but I know this is something that I have a tiny amount of experience with, and I knew immediately
Go
it was
on.
not for me. But in the Survivor ORG world, it is people behind a computer trying to play a reality game with other people. And the thing you learn very quickly is you judge where you are in the game and where other people are in the game by who they keep mentioning and who you know they're talking to and whose name is being dropped by whom when you have conversations with them. And I think Chris is one of those people that you very quickly realize he's talking to everybody all the time. And you can tell that just by the number of people that mention him to other people. And so if you're paying attention, you could pick up on that fairly quickly.
Tim, how do you think that Chris is doing overall?
Well, I think he's not doing badly. He's sort of riding the wave. That's my impression. He's not. I don't think he's. Do I think he's a winner? He could be. He could be. I think he's got a lot. I think he's got a lot of character. I think he comes across to me as sort of the Joker in the pack at the moment. Very very entertaining, and my hunch is that he's going to start making enemies. And that's more of a problem. He's quite outspoken, and it's very entertaining. But I'm not completely convinced that he's got everybody on his side, nor does he try to win people over.
Yeah, Taran, we saw in this episode that the bromance of Shooby and Joey tried to add in Chris as a third wheel, and he was somewhat reluctant to be a part of the guys' alliance.
Yeah, and Shooby seems to sort of like recognize that, oh, is this the best? I hate that we're doing this because he's just going to tell everyone about it. So yeah, I feel like I think he's probably right to be a little cautious. I think that the more he branches out, the more dangerous he's going to find himself, the more dangerous a position he's going to find himself in. I think that being an influencer, being in the top spot is kind of a dangerous place to be because you immediately become a target, especially here in the US where the players are thinking a little more strategically, thinking a little more cutthroat. I think that now that he's been an influencer, people are going to start to recognize, oh, everybody's good with Chris, and they might start voting him down. I really feel like the right spot to be is in that sweet spot, somewhere in the middle, where you're not really influencing, but you're still being protected by the people that are. And that's where he was in the first round, but now in this second round that he's been boosted up there, I wonder how he's going to handle that.
Antonio had it all right the first night out. He's like, oh, I know this is bad for me. I'm bad. I'm an influencer. It's over. Was it a self-fulfilling prophecy, Taran?
I think it was. I mean, I think he was absolutely right to not want to be an influencer, and I think that he knew it, but he still couldn't stop it from like getting to his head and putting him in the position that he probably like knew he was going to be. It's like knowing that you are like you have a character flaw, and so you try to avoid being put in a situation where that character flaw is exposed, but then man, I'm here and you can't help it but just let the power go to your head, the target goes bigger, and just like that you're out of the house.
Yeah, but I think that Chris and Shooby lucked out here. And look, who's to say what's going to happen tomorrow? I do agree with Tim that I think Chris, if he gets in this position again, he hasn't made deals with everybody, but I think he's in so well with nearly everybody else that if he's in position again, it's like Shooby said here, like, I have to keep so many people safe that like I can't look myself in the mirror anymore. And Lord knows Chris is fine looking at himself in the mirror, as is Joey. So like there's no problem with that. But I think they lucked out here in that I wouldn't say Antonio was like a house target for everybody in the circle, but like I feel like he was a pretty easy pick. Like he had just sketched people out so much that it really didn't seem like anyone was extremely heartbroken the most heartbroken seemed like Shooby himself, who got rid of him.
No, I think Joey was the most heartbroken. Once he saw that, and he is like, I'm telling you, he's a catfish. And then I'm going to hell. I'm going to hell. He wasn't a catfish. I thought he was. Oh, my God.
Everything Joey says is in capital letters.
Yeah. Don't tell Nightbot in the chat.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I can't wait for Joey to have a kid and just to be like, hush, little baby. Don't say a word. I made you a cake. Don't eat it.
What? Can I?
Oh, hold on. We're on bated breath for Tim.
We lost him.
He got blocked.
Oh no.
He's buffering.
Who's he visiting?
Oh no, Taran, that we may have been too hard on Joey the first night out, but he has seemed to have come around so well. He's a beloved member of the circle.
Yeah, I think Joey is like the most controversial player on the show, and he's so divisive that there are some people that just hate Joey and they really don't like him. There are some people. Yes, in the fandom. There are some people that like didn't like him at first, but came to love him. There are some people who just loved him right away and just love him to death. And so it's interesting. So Tim seems to be somebody that is enjoying Joey. I will say he's grown on me. And when he's not busy like just drooling over the women, I think that he's pretty fun, and honestly it's pretty fun to watch him drool over the women. I mean,
yeah, and even Chris, yeah.
Well, I think to your point, though, Taran, like that's a character flaw of his, though, right? Like what I like about Joey is he'll do something and then immediately say, like, that was stupid for me to do. Like when he's like, I'm only right 25% of the time. This was a stupid guess on my part. I can't believe I did this. Or even like when he's flirting with the girls, it'd be like, I'm putting out a line. This is a really stupid thing I'm saying. Like he is so self-examining that it's like it's very therapeutic almost to watch Joey just completely unfiltered break himself down with everything he says.
Jess, what do you make of Joey?
I saw him and I hated him on sight.
Mm-hmm.
And then the more I get to know him, like everything he says and everything he is about, it goes against everything that I am and everything I am about. And yet I kind of love the guy. Like he is hilarious. He's so entertaining. He was a get for them.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's definitely making the show more entertaining. And weirdly, because he's so himself, I think everybody else in the house is responding to this and he's making real connections. Like I can't believe how quickly people open up to him. Like when Miranda started telling him all about her past and her difficult family life, and it was just like, you've been in the house for 15 minutes at this point, and something about him, she just responds to him and wants to pour her heart out to him. And I think it's really, you want to root for that guy because he's a guy that will get to, if he gets to the end, he'll get there on his own merits and he'll get there by being him. And I feel like that's what the show wants you to reward.
Yeah, when I first saw him in the cast, I was like, really? We're doing this? Jersey Shore guy, it's 2019.
Yeah, we know how you feel about Jersey Shore people, Rob.
Yeah, I just feel like, what year is this that we're doing this? This is the decade challenge, but no, that he actually seems to have like the biggest heart out of he loves everybody. He got into a dust up with Antonio, but still in his mind, he was like, all right, now I'm reaching out to this guy. I'm going to make amends. And he really is, with Shooby, with Chris, that he has behaved in ways that I think that were not how I thought he was going to be, Taran.
I really loved his conversation with Miranda, that where she opened up about like her foster situation, and because he was talking about his family, and I thought that was a really sweet moment, and to see him like genuinely respond to that, like he does seem like he has a good heart. Like he really cares for her in that moment. He cares for the people that he interacts with. Like when he sees Chris's new picture. He's like, yes, that's amazing. I love that. Like, he's just so full of excitement for all of the people there, except for Antonio. Just as long as it's not Antonio, he's all about it.
Which makes me very worried for our guy that's coming in, because it seems like the way that Alex is taking on Adam is, I want him to be a sex pot man whore, whereas like those are the things we don't like about Joey, right? And I think that if he's not able to bring in that like positive, heartwarming, relatable aspects of his personality, that's what people really like about Joey, both in and out of the show. So if you're not bringing that to your quote unquote persona, it might not wear well on this group.
There's one more thing I think is very interesting about Joey. And that is he's kind of a horn dog, and he loves the ladies, but he was hardcore flirting with Chris, and that was surprising to see come out of him.
He flirts with anybody.
He's an equal opportunity flirtist, and I kind of love that too.
Yeah, he gets a phone call, and it's like, "Hi, sir, we have an incredible credit card offer for you." Are you kidding me? You sound like you're such an incredible person. I would love. What are you doing later tonight?
Well, that's why he wasn't able to decorate the cake. He was too busy flirting with it for most of the time.
Caressing it.
Exactly. Oh, too bad you're so undressed right now. I don't want to put frosting on you.
Yeah. Okay. I believe we have Tim back with us.
I'm so sorry.
Tim,
it's fine.
We thought you were blocked from us.
No, I think I had a little technical problem with British electricity.
Oh boy.
Okay. We weren't sure if you were pulling a Chris, and we're just waiting.
Oh, am I still here? No,
yeah, you're still here with us, leaving us wanting more.
We see you.
We see you, Tim.
I don't think he can see us.
Oh
no.
This is a fun experiment.
Unbelievable.
All right. Let's let Tim figure it out. We don't have him have a moment.
We killed Taran.
That was a very like Seaburn like reaction. I feel like just like the full body.
The Seaburn reaction, be like, oh,
and then doing like Seaburn is like a humanized GIF, right? Like he has all the reactions. He dances. He like wears little like Bigfoot slippers. He's moving all over that freaking apartment that they're in.
Are those Bigfoot slippers or are those Wookiee slippers?
I hope they're Wookiee slippers, but I think they are generic furry animal slippers.
Mm-hmm. What do you make of his onesie?
I think they are the perfect complement to the onesie. And I feel like if I'm going on the circle, I'm dressing for comfort too. Like onesies all day, every day.
Yeah, why not?
Like they say, get dressed up for the party. Okay, I'll go put on my other onesie.
Yeah. Okay. All right. All right. Should we try Tim one more time? Let's see. Okay. Tim.
Can you hear us?
Message to Tim.
Can you hear us? Send.
Message to Tim. We see you. Can you
Wide eyes emoji.
Can you hear us? Question mark. Shrug emoji.
He walked away. This is the perfect like 2020 podcast, by the way. I think this is a great start.
I feel like it's the perfect circle podcast too.
Can I have a random observation about the circle? I feel like that the people in the circle don't know how to use hashtags, or don't know what a hashtag is.
I mean, I guess so. I think I'm used to. I think I was introduced to the whole like hashtag in a conversation thing. Yeah. In the UK version, where I was like, oh, maybe that's just a thing in the UK, and now they're doing it here, and I'm like, well, it's the thing they do in the circle. But I don't. Yeah, I don't think it's something that I do very much in conversation.
There's no trending topics. There's nothing that you could like, see more of these topics in this episode. This episode 4. The following hashtags were used. Hashtag I won't forget you. Hashtag still nervous though. Hashtag here for you. Hashtag Destiny's Child heart emoji. Hashtag the real deal.
Destiny's Child says a lot.
Hashtag proud mama's boy. Hashtag feeling strong. Hashtag girl code. Hashtag virtual hugs. Hashtag sucking in my gut. That one I might use.
Well, I would say aside from the last one, those feel like things that like Russian bots would use to like try to catch on everyone's thing of like hashtag loving life, hashtag living my face, or whatever you might do, other sort of platitudes to just use as a catch-all.
Well, linguistically, this is an interesting moment because I feel like this echoes the way that people are communicating off of Twitter now. I think people have kind of incorporated the hashtags into like even their regular speech, face-to-face speech. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but sometimes people out in the world
like this,
like the three of you,
like this through a camera.
Yeah.
Yes, like this. But I've heard people use hashtags like while they are just having a real conversation with someone. And if I'm hearing it in my like grizzled Gen Xer world, the kids are definitely doing it.
Yeah. Like hashtag sorry, not sorry.
Hashtag sorry, not sorry. Hashtag goals. Hashtag fire.
Yeah, it seems to be a way to include a sentiment that cannot easily be put into a sentence because it's not it's not easily related to the actual sentence. So it's like you're trying to contextualize what you say. In fact, Miranda should probably be using more hashtags because she keeps getting misinterpreted. So I feel like if she had put, well, she did put a hashtag, didn't she? Probably.
Yes.
Hey, Tim. Oh, now we can't hear you.
We can see you. We can see we can't hear you, Tim.
This is a comedy of errors.
You may need to select a different microphone or the microphone that you are using. There should be an option at the bottom of the page.
Okay. All right. We haven't talked much about Miranda. Mike, do you have any thoughts about new edition Miranda?
Yeah, I'm so intrigued by her. I'm so happy that we saw this different side of her in this episode. I mean, granted, she has a lot of different sides to her. I'm not entirely sure how I feel.
A lot of different looks.
Yeah, I wonder how much, and maybe Tim, when he's given the power of speech, will be able to talk this about, what pictures you're able to choose from. But either she got handed a crappy hand with a bunch of different looks, or she basically said, like, let me pick like one from each different era of Miranda.
And Tim, you could also message us in the chat, and then we'll read your typewritten messages. That should be no problem.
Tim's message.
Okay, all right. In the private chat, you can send us a message. We'll have our incoming messages from Tim. Jess, how do you feel about Miranda, aka Randy?
Well, I think Miranda has this problem, and I feel like someone needs to give a name to this as well. She has the problem where she looks like a completely different person in every photo ever taken of her.
Yeah, that's so weird.
And it's a problem I have as well. Like, I've never seen a photograph of myself that looks like me because I don't even know. It's just something that's a thing about your face that you sometimes have. And I think it's hurting her right now because she looks very catfishy. Part of it is because she changes her look all the time, but she also, like, she could remedy that. And the most hilarious thing I found about Miranda, and when she's first selecting her first profile pic, she says, I don't think I want to show off my tattoos because I don't want to show that side of me.
Not yet.
Come on, it's freaking 2020. Like, 40-year-old former Sunday school teachers have tattoos. It's a thing. It's not gonna, people aren't gonna think you're some sort of edgelord because you have some ink. Although it did come back to bite her later because she's got one picture. It's like before she got the one tattoo on her knee. And that's a problem too, because she has some old photos in there. And I feel like all your social media photos should be putting your best, most recent foot forward.
Yes.
Message from Tim. Tim says, oh, absolutely. Her photos all look like someone else, but I loved the real Miranda. Also,
are we going to get some hashtags in these, Tim?
Yeah. Another message from Tim. Almost everyone seems to have tattoos.
Yeah.
Good point, Tim.
Yeah,
it is a good point.
Keep him out of the game too long. He's back in the circle already.
I love Miranda. I was like not sure about where I stood on her, but like she seems to just be like a really genuine, sweet person. And I think it's hilarious that she keeps getting like dramatically misinterpreted in every conversation that she's in. But I actually really like her. I think she was a good addition.
What do you make of the one of the final acts of the episode, the bet between her and Sammy? Chekhov's suggestive emoji bet of who's going to get Joey, who's going to be the first person to get Joey to send a suggestive emoji.
Could it be a tie?
Well, how are they going to know anyway? Like, who's adjudicating this?
Yeah, what is the most suggestive emoji possible?
There's a good SNL sketch about this from the Sarah Lee social media department. But I believe it's eggplant, ghost, water,
Yeah,
car crash,
I
right?
think if someone says like remove all toxic from Circle Community, then I think we'll know someone's a fan of that sketch. Or if you have Karen come in and just say like, nope, pull out, no emojis, Joey, stop it.
Yeah.
Well, I heard you are supposed to pull out.
That's true. You feel a tingle in the chat. Pull out of it.
Okay, we have some messages from Tim. Tim says, her speaking voice is charming. I loved her. Oh, isn't that bet shocking? Miranda seems so confident. And Tim says also, pull out or tingle.
That's the Amazing Race detour choice we never knew we needed until now.
Oh, each has its own pros and cons.
Oh boy, I agree about her voice though. She has a very very calming voice.
Yes. Tim says, a message from Tim. Antonia will live on, clearly.
Yeah.
There you go. We haven't talked too much about Rebecca, aka Seaburn. Mike, how do you think Rebecca stands after 1 week in the game?
So it's interesting because I feel like Seaburn has started off on a really good foot. I really do believe in the Seaburn-Shooby alliance. I think that they're two very good-natured individuals. And I think if you're looking for two people who are definitely going to watch out for each other, I think Shooby learned the hard way, like how he's going to have to prioritize allies, literally ranking them. But I think he's most loyal to Rebecca. My worry with Rebecca is she's very much presenting this girl next door, ho-hum, little old me persona. And I just wonder if Seaburn's going to be able to keep that, persona going throughout. The great thing about Karen is that, as she said, it's me just with a different face. It seems like Seaburn is trying to create an entire, personality from Rebecca. And I just wonder how undercover he's going to be able to stay, especially when the pressure's applied.
Yeah, it's a dramatic difference too, because the Seaburn that we see is like, what? Like he's so animated and he's so reactive and he's like super funny and great. But Rebecca is very like calm and sweet and shy. And it's a really dramatic difference in terms of personality. So I do wonder how long this can go for, because it seems like they are already noticing how quiet Rebecca seems to be, which tends to be like the first sign that the catfish is slipping. It's when somebody's being quiet, they tend to be a catfish.
Message from Tim. Rebecca is a bit quiet, but Seaburn is lovely in every way. He's playing this one very carefully. He knows Rebecca well, of course. That reminds me of season 1 of the British Circle.
Also had onesies.
Another message from Tim. Also, his cake was spectacular. And he is in touch with his feminine side. Yes, the shy thing and the twin thing.
Yeah, he did have a nice recovery in the AMA where essentially he had the first bullet fired his way of like, are you really shy or is this a put on? Or are you trying to fake a personality? And he comes up with this thing. I think dropping the twin thing right there is great because it's a nice quirk that he can talk about. And from what my research is, I believe that the actual Rebecca is a twin too. So it's not something he's fabricating. He's not going through the Antonio resume list of where he went to high school and college. So I think that, he's got, obviously he has his sources, which is also something he has a benefit over than someone like Karen, who just picked this random girl named Mercedes and doesn't necessarily know what her personal background is aside from what Karen's background is.
Well, I think that could be tougher too. I think Mercedes is more of an empty shell and she can be more of herself. But I think Seaburn might get tripped up trying to be Rebecca. And I think that's where he's going to stumble. And at first I thought it was the other way around. I thought just picking a rando and trying to populate it with fiction is the wrong tack. But I'm coming around to the fact that Seaburn's going to have more trouble trying to be a real person and trying to infuse real Rebecca into fake Rebecca. I think that's more trouble. I think you got to just do the Karen thing and be yourself in the empty shell of your catfish persona.
Another message from Tim. He says, oh, there was a conversation with Mercedes where Alana wanted to suggest that Rebecca was a catfish, and then it didn't develop that. Do you recall that, or am I projecting something here?
There was, so Alana visited Sammy when she was eliminated and talked about that she thought Rebecca was a catfish because she asked if Chris was cute. And then Rebecca was talking to Sammy, trying to avert suspicion about who Antonio visited. And so she threw some suspicion at Rebecca, saying that maybe it was Rebecca that Antonio had visited and that maybe Rebecca is a catfish. And Sammy, who with the knowledge that she had from Alana, was kind of like, oh, I kind of do see that. I wonder if that's a thing. I do think that that Rebecca is going to have some trouble moving forward in terms of keeping it on the down low that he is actually a catfish.
I have a question about catfishers, and I wonder if this is a thing that is allowed in the world of the circle. Now, out on Twitter, we have so many people that have created these novelty Twitter accounts where they are embodying inanimate objects. Like we have one who's pretending to be Rob's podcast bell. We have someone who's pretending to be his mug, and not even like, out in the further world of Rob, even beyond the insular
There's probably more Tarans at this point.
Yeah, I think there is. There's like a robot Taran. And here's my question. Could you go on the circle and catfish as an inanimate object and just like put it out front? Like, okay. I am this bottle of water, and everything. Like, you must call me the water bottle.
And Wendy's is in the circle.
And here comes Joey, like, oh man, I want a number 2.
I'm gonna take the label off the water bottle and show it to Joey. He's gonna be
Wendy,
so aroused.
I want to come in. I want to supersize everything, if you know what I mean.
How many things do I have to do to get some free spicy nugs? What do I have to do? It's great though, because I like that idea. You could also masquerade as like, what's a universally beloved thing? Like pizza, right? You could be like, hey, I'm pizza. Like, talk to me about anything you want to. And so maybe from that capacity, you're really universally appealing to the masses at large.
Yeah. But Taran, they could Big Brother Canada this thing all the way to the bank and get a couple of these product placement deals to be in the circle.
Maybe somebody should go on as Wendy from Wendy's.
Like, this is really me. This is my real photograph.
Product placement.
Well, actually, I think, Taran, you have a great idea. I think season 2, US of the Circle, if they're really, need sponsors, bring in all the people behind those snarky corporate accounts and have them play the circle as their corporate mascots.
Oh, you got Moon Pie, you got Wendy's, you got...
It would be a little bit like that, like really, really terrible movie where it takes place like in a store and it's all like the brand names, like Mr. Clean.
Oh yeah. Oh god, yeah.
That's not a real thing.
No, it's a thing where Charlie Sheen plays a doo-doo dog.
Yeah, he plays a dog, and the animation looks like it's from like the 80s, like
not a real
animation.
Thing.
Food fight. That's it. Fight. It's a terrible movie.
It's the worst.
Speaking of the food fight, let's talk about the game from this latest episode, Nailed It or Failed It. Jess, as our resident baker on the panel, what do you think about the cakes that were made?
Paul Hollywood would not be impressed with any of these people's cakes.
Is that cake boss?
Would he give Joey a handshake?
Yeah, there would be no handshakes given out to anybody.
Cake boss, I would give you way more than a handshake, if you know what I mean. Okay, cake boss?
There's a message from Tim that I'm enjoying here. Tim says, Joey's was brilliant, looked pre-digested. I also loved Joey's cake. I feel like Joey's cake should have won.
Yeah.
I think Shooby's cake with the conceptual art should have won.
Yeah.
Shooby just completely like eschewing the initial concept of like, I'm just going to make my own cake.
Yeah, I mean, you got to entertain
a banana in it.
You should have shown like the whole workspace, because it wasn't just a cake. It was a full like concept art of the entire kitchen.
The Joey cake was like a crime scene of it. It looked like in like one of those like mafia movies where they just get done like putting the body through the grind, like the apron on, and he's just sitting back covered in goo. This was looked like that it needs CSI to come in.
Yeah, we got the fondant killer on lock. He's here in this apartment.
Here's another thing I'm wondering, and maybe the producers would have put a stop to this. could you have used the cake challenge to send a message to somebody else?
Oh,
Like I'm thinking of the way that Joey is clearly like modeling this after the horse head that gets left in the bed at the beginning of The Godfather. Could you and Shooby spells out like his social media hashtag that he's trying to make happen or something.
social Medusa.
Yeah, could you spell something out on the cake like Rebecca is a catfish or something?
Not
Would you be
Penny
allowed to do
Pope.
that? Yeah.
I mean, I think that would definitely be allowed. Something similar has happened in previous seasons in the UK.
Aha.
So
Okay.
yeah, and it's caused drama. So.
Yeah.
So wait, so in terms of this cake design, I mean, was it cake or was it? I'm still trying to figure out if this was actual
Was
cake
it
they were
edible?
working- Yeah, or was it like styrofoam that you used to make like the solar system?
The
you
top
know?
layer was real cake. I feel like because you had to stack the rainbow layers, but the bottom layer looked like the styrofoam that you put in the window of the bakery.
Mm. Yeah, because I was thinking, like, when they said make a cake, I thought that was a huge daunting task because I thought they had to actually bake the cake first. But no, they've been given literally everything and they just said, go with it. And Joey went with it very, very hard with his hands.
Do they have
I only
ovens?
know one way, Mike. Yeah.
I don't think they have ovens. I think they
Yeah.
just have like a stovetop.
Well, Taran, that if they had to bake the cake, that we couldn't do it without Chef Antonio.
Oh, obviously. I mean, they all, unfortunately, we're not able to get advice about how to make the cake or poached eggs. So
He doesn't even know how to poach an egg.
Yeah, so,
Right.
well, listen, Jess, he knows how to make what? Hot dog, hamburger, and ice cream. Those are his three
And
things, right?
I guess if it's not an emoji, he doesn't know how to make it.
that's it.
I just would love to have what was it? Miranda's like how to poach an egg. He's like, okay, what you want to do is take a hot dog, put it on a bun, and there you go. That's a poached egg. Chef Antonio, I'm a player.
Yeah.
Don't bother with all that fancy stuff. Just grab some French fries and put some ketchup on them. You're good.
You want to make an omelet? Just go into the freezer, grab some ice cream. That's your omelet.
Pepper. Yeah.
This is everything that's wrong with Antonio in general here. Is he thinks that because he can put something in the microwave that makes him a chef, and that's, I feel like, a perfect encapsulation of who he is as a person.
Mm-hmm. Okay. We have our new contestant who is entering the circle. Mike brought him up earlier, but I guess let's talk about Alex and what is his name that he's going as, Mike?
Adam. And he is so screwed.
Why can't he be Alex? Like like do you have to come up with a fake name? Like nobody knows his real name is Alex.
It's so interesting because like he's like, yeah, I'm someone who like doesn't, I'm someone who just slips under the radar, but like he dresses a certain way. He says he's an artist and a cheesemonger. He has so many interesting conversation points, and that's all going to get glossed over to his effect to be like this modelly man bro.
Yeah. Cheesemonger, is that it's like a fishmonger, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many dances you do. Maybe Antonio can teach you what to do with the cheese. Most likely just put it on a burger. But I'm assuming that's what he does. But he is unemployed at the moment. So maybe the cheese business has gone south.
Okay. Just a message from Tim. I loved his trousers. He was a big fan of Alex's trousers.
Those are the worst freaking pants I've ever seen in my entire life.
Tim disagrees.
Yeah, I think Tim and I would have to be on opposite sides of that debate. And I'm taking the con, and he can take the pro.
Yeah, I thought that maybe they were the bottom part to Seaburn's Chewbacca costume. Maybe that was part of it.
So did everybody get one piece of the costume, just like everybody got different party favors?
Maybe. Tim is back. Tim, can we hear you yet?
Yeah, I think I have volume. I have volume. I'm no longer mute, and you're about to stop. I'm so sorry.
Everybody's reacting like Seaburn here.
I was going to say, I don't know whether I caught it, but I hope you've commented on his wonderful trousers, which looked
Yes,
culottes and some sort of sack. But I'm sure they're going to feature heavily in future programs.
I would not be surprised if he has a cape. I feel like he's the kind of guy who has a cape, unironically.
Yeah, that tracks.
I think he's extraordinary.
Okay, well, Tim, tell us about what his presentation and his plan. Do you think that this is going to be successful for Alex coming in as heartthrob Adam?
Yes, well, I think it suffers from the same thing, actually, that comes up again and again. If somebody thinks, oh, a pretty person is going to be more successful, because in the end, they're going to get to a point where the lie cannot be sustained. And the people who are going to have an easier run are those who are playing themselves. I mean, even that is difficult, but it's so hard to lie for a month.
Mm-hmm.
That I think is the problem.
And I feel. Yeah, I feel like especially, and I don't know exactly what Alex's intentions are here, but I've normally found that people coming in as a catfish later on, they usually they're so excited to pretend to be somebody that they really just give the game away right away, especially to people who have been playing for a little while and kind of have their sea legs, their circle legs already. Yeah, and so like if he goes in there trying to be like, what's up, fellow bros? I too work out all the time. It's not going to work out, bro.
Yes, buddy.
Taran, can I add to that? Because the disadvantage that he has is he is new, and this is a new game for him. It's not a new game for them.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, well, Tim, I was going to ask because Adam is somebody, or Alex is somebody who is married. He's recently married, but he is going to be masquerading as single. And we've seen, Antonio was in a relationship. Mercedes/Karen is in a relationship. Obviously, not to the extent that Alex is. But what do you make of the decision for all these people to sort of decide to erase their status, feeling like, okay, if you're in the circle, you need to be single in order to thrive?
I would find that really uncomfortable if I were their partner. I would think, where are you going with this? Is this some sort of coded message? And I would find that dreadfully difficult to take. Watching my partner on the television pretending to be single.
I think it's interesting too, because I think that we're seeing it much more often in the US version than we did in the UK version, where basically I don't think there's a single person who has gone into the circle so far in the US version who has said, I'm in a relationship, even though there's been at least 3 people who actually are. They've all said that they're single. I can't even remember a single time other than like just blatant catfishes in the UK where somebody just intentionally avoided saying that they were in a relationship. And I've noticed also that all of the conversations tend to be very flirty, very flirt heavy all the time, everywhere in this US version. And it does make me wonder a little bit if there's a cultural difference here at all, that the Americans really feel the need to be single and flirty because that's how they communicate.
But Miranda specifically says she's going to be flirty, doesn't she?
Yeah.
On quite a number of occasions, and she's actually very good at it.
And I wonder if that comes down to the age discrepancy or lack thereof. I think I've seen a lot of praise for this cast, but I think one of the sticking points is, especially compared to the UK version, it does seem like everyone we've had so far ranges from their early 20s to Karen's the oldest, and she's 37. And I wonder if it's just because they're observing the people in the pictures around them, which are people in their mid to late 20s. You think, okay, this is the reality TV adage of like bringing in young, sexy singles to, talk with one another. Whereas the British series, I mean, Tim, you're an example of that as well.
I think it was I think it was very unusual casting in my case.
Interesting.
There were 2 of us of the same age, but it was unusual.
So you think it's the circle is more so suited from a casting perspective, more so towards those like 20s to early 30s people?
I think so, and that's the audience it seems to be attracting as well. So yeah, and the American cast seems to have such range in it already, even within that age bracket.
Yeah. I've really been enjoying the cast. I think there's a lot of diverse personality, background. Like it's really, really interesting dynamics happening on the circle. And I genuinely feel like this is one of the best casts I've just seen in US reality, at least, in a while, having seen a lot of Survivor and Big Brother. I do like Survivor casts a lot, but it's really surprised me in a good way that I usually do look for like bigger age diversity in casts, because I do like a bigger age diversity. But I agree. I don't think it's as necessary here. I feel like it's actually working pretty well, and I'm really enjoying it.
Could I add something else on the back of that? That something which I noticed seems to be in the series in all 4 episodes is this interest in friendship. There's a great interest in building alliances. There's a great interest in flirting, and the interest in friendship is definitely there with Shooby. But I don't see it. I don't see it sort of pervading the whole group, and I think that's something that they're going to have to discover, because there's a limit to how much the flirting will get them, because it's a popularity contest in the end. Right. It's a contest about friendship.
That was one of the most interesting things to me, getting the chance to talk to you, Tim, is that, I mean, especially on your season, there's a lot, and in the UK, like there's a lot of tension sort of between tactical behavior, strategic behavior, and sort of like genuine friendships and relationships built that are built. And I do think there's a cultural difference here for sure, where in the US, we're very used to Big Brother and Survivor, which are strategic games. You know, we've been watching them now for 20 years, and alliances and, you know, backstabbing have been a part of our vocabulary and just regular game mechanics for these kinds of games for 20 years now. Whereas the UK version of Big Brother was a public vote, right? It was not the same sort of thing. And UK shows in general tend to be less cutthroat, less strategic, it seems. And I do think that the cast that we're seeing in the US here is definitely focused in a different way. Especially right away, we see Antonio talking about strategy and like thinking like, this is my biggest threat, and that's why I want to take them out. And we're seeing people like Rebecca and Shooby, who seem like they get along pretty well, but they talk about their relationship in terms of an alliance rather than a friendship. And I was very curious to get your take on all that, Tim.
But although Shooby uses the language of alliance, his response when he was an influencer was astonishing. It was so deep and deeply felt, and that's about friendship. I mean, his heart is in the right place, I think.
Yeah, and I think
and I would expect him to go far.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that he's my winner pick right now, just because I think he's just so endearing to everybody, and I think. To that point, I want to talk about Sammy, because I think that relates to what you were saying, Taran, where I think Sammy is a good example of how I think I have confidence that that discrepancy between being strategic and being emotionally and socially involved is going to break down as the game progresses. Sammy, for example, I think she is a lot of fun. The internet loves Sammy. We all love Sammy. She's sassy as hell. But I feel like she put a lot of walls up in like very judgily responding to people in these first 3 episodes. But when she had that conversation with Shooby, it felt like I was able to see her in a different light. And it felt like she actually, for the first time in the show, had a genuine connection to somebody. And I wonder if for a lot of these people, yeah, exactly. And I wonder if it's for a lot of these people, if it's just that like one conversation. You know, like maybe that was the thing for Joey, you know, with Joey and Miranda, was like, once you actually realize that the people you're talking to are genuine human beings and not face on a screen, that I think changes the way that you approach the game fundamentally.
Yep. And it could change the whole dynamic of the game. I think the more people that Shooby has private conversations with, the more this game is going to transform.
Yeah, and
I think he's an engine of transformation.
I agree. And speaking of Sammy in particular too, I think that she really exemplified something that I was noticing, which is that in this game, the purpose is to rate people, and so therefore to judge them to some extent. And I think that it encourages you, even on a subconscious level, to start looking at people critically and thinking about like, why might I dislike this person, or why might I like this person? I got a lot of that from Sammy right away when she was, you know, looking at Alana, like, oh, she's a model, like, and similar things with Miranda now, where it feels like she's almost looking for things to dislike, almost because she has to dislike somebody, right? Because she's ranking some people on the low end, and so I feel like there's some kind of emotional incentive to do that in some way. Am I onto something there, Tim? Did you feel any sort of pull in that direction when you were playing?
Well, when I was playing, I was actively trying to resist that. But I can see that happening in this situation. The problem I think that happens if you're trying to work out who do you dislike most is you're suddenly going to find yourself spending the next 2 weeks with people that you dislike most. And you've got to find a way of reconciling yourself with the fact that you were cussing this person to blazes yesterday, and now you're going to have to sort of buddy up to them. And it creates a certain amount of paranoia. I think the way forward is to try and like as many people, and to be like. There's an element of reciprocity. I don't think it's called the circle for nothing. The circle is about making connections, and those people who are making those connections, and maybe not being too sort of Antonio-ish and obvious about it, are those people who are going to survive the longest. And I think Sammy is showing. I think there's a lot in Sammy, and I think Sammy could go a long way as well. Sammy and Shooby, I think, are the two to look out for.
I want to start to bring in some questions, both that have been sent to us on social media, and then also you can ask questions in the YouTube comments. We can go ahead and post them on the screen. This is a question that why are players so concerned about figuring out who the catfish are? This is from Dave. Isn't it more important to figure out who you can trust and is good for your game, regardless if they're real or not? Jess, do you have any thoughts on why is it so important for players to figure out who the catfish are? Even if everybody has, it's not like that this is like Mafia, where once you out the catfish, then they're eliminated from the game.
Yeah, but I think if someone is catfishing you, can you trust them? Like, I feel like those two things are diametrically opposed already. You can't just say, I'm going to buy into this person who is pretending to be another person, even though I know they're not who they say they are. Like, already the trust is fractured. I think I can see why the temptation is there for people to spend all their time wondering who is trying to pull one over on them, because I think that's intrinsic to the whole game. Like, who is pulling one over on you in a very obvious catfishy way and who's doing it in a gamey way? I don't think those two things can be separated.
Tim, what do you think about that? Is it the number one priority, figure out who the catfish people are?
No. The number one priority in this game is to be popular. And the catfish thing is a sort of secondary issue. When I was playing it, I took the catfish thing. It just seemed to me to be natural to work out who was a catfish and who was not. And I was quite quick at it. But there were one or two people that I worked out were catfish, and I didn't want them to be, so I just assumed they weren't. And it's and I think you can get distracted, and again, it causes paranoia if your main priority is to try and identify the catfish, because in the end, it's not going to change anything unless they come out and sort of confess to being a catfish, and even then, they wouldn't necessarily be blocked.
Yeah, I think it might actually go along with a little bit of what we were talking about earlier, when in terms of like looking for a reason to dislike somebody, right? Like being a catfish is the most game certified way of being like, well, they messed up. Like they are the wrong people, and so we don't have to feel as bad if we block them, as a way of sort of like protecting yourself emotionally, because it's painful to have to end people's dreams, but if they were lying, if they are not who they said they were, then it's a little bit easier, because there's a layer there protecting you. And so I feel like that may be an element of it as well.
Yeah, we see it all the time in Big Brother US, right? Of like, well, this person lied. I mean, that's Vanessa Russo's MO, was like, I need a reason. Oh, I have to get rid of this person because they are clearly lying about this. I think especially in these early stages, I can assume you want like reasons that are not going to want to get a lot of blood on your hands when you're an influencer. And I feel like if you're starting a witch hunt against catfish, I mean, I'm trying to figure out, as a catfish, like, is the smartest thing to shove the blame off onto other people, or just try to downplay catfishes whatsoever? Because, you know, it's one thing to have the concept of the catfish in the conversation, because then the finger might be pointed at you. At the same time, if people are targeting someone else for a different reason, then that means that, you're not being targeted at the end of the day.
I was going to say one thing about looking at there's been a number of seasons of the Circle here and there, and just looking at them, I can't think of a single person who played a catfish where the catfish was nicer than the actual person who was in real life. And I think that might be a failing of the contestants. I think it might be a wonderful thing to say, go off, be a better catfish than you are a human being. And that might be interesting. But I think there's something inherently difficult about lying for that amount of time.
Yeah, you should go and be the catfish that you want to see in the world.
Yeah, shouldn't that stop me if I had an idea on the Why You Should Watch the Circle podcast we did with Kirsten the other day. Stop me if this has happened. Shouldn't there be an Adam who comes in and catfishes as Alex?
Yes.
Isn't that the move? Isn't that the way to win? The hack?
Wonderful.
Is that what Alana should have done? Should Alana have gone in as like a super dorky like Luna Lovegood avatar of like I'm quirky and dorky?
I love her.
Yeah, exactly.
I think the move for Alana is to be herself, but have pictures at first that are more dorky, less showing off just how amazingly beautiful she is, and then slowly introduce the beautiful photos. But we have seen before on the Circle, like a very attractive person going in to be like, well, I don't want to be judged for being attractive, so I'm going to go in as somebody less attractive, which is kind of insulting to the person that they're catfishing as. I guess what are you gonna do?
It would be really upsetting if someone went into the Circle house and they were a gorgeous model type and they're like, I'm going to use Jess's photos. They're using my photos as the unattractive. Yeah, that's me. And I feel like whoever Mercedes is in real life is probably got some complicated feelings about having her pictures used on the Circle.
I mean, you have to agree to it.
She did agree to it?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Could you imagine if she didn't and her face is just one big blur the entire time? I think she might be the catfish. I don't know. There's something off about her.
There it is. I'm going to catfish as the big blue dot.
I'm going to catfish as the Twitter egg.
Yeah, I did. A bottle of water.
Okay, this is a question that we got on Twitter from an account on Zaddy Taran wanted to ask, do you think that Shooby will ever reveal he ran for California governor? Mike, do you know about this?
Yeah, I mean, didn't he host that season of Celebrity Apprentice, right? That was Shooby? The Shoobinator?
I hate social media so much.
It's a bubonic plague.
Just did you know this? Shooby ran for California governor in 2018.
I assume he didn't win because
he was a real Ben Wyatt. Yeah, that he was vying to be the youngest U.S. governor.
I mean, he got it backwards, clearly. You have to be on reality television first, then you can run for office. That's how it works in California and elsewhere.
In an alternate universe, we wouldn't have Mayor Pete. We'd have Shooby.
But this is not a joke. That is a real story. That he ran for governor of California, and from what I'm seeing in the chat, he got about 4,000 votes.
That's not bad.
He should have done more social media campaigning.
Yeah.
Maybe that's where his campaign went wrong. He's like, nope, I'm not gonna do it. I'm just gonna paper the town, and it turns out that that's not the way to run.
Is that why he hates social media so much, Mike? That I feel like a lot of politicians have had negative experiences with social media.
Yeah, exactly. That's why he's like, have you ever been on social media before? Like, have you gotten into any lascivious situations? Like, nope, no. That was a time gone by. I'm done with that now. That's my ice town. That's why I stay off of social media. Maybe, Shooby's an alternate identity to the first person he submitted himself under.
Maybe. Then, Tim, we have a lot of questions for you. First of people want to know where's the cat?
Well, they're both in the other room where the electricity is working better. But I've got two cats. One
Bay
is
in Fiji.
Bey and Hanum. They're Turkish names. It means lord and lady. And since Bey was on the circle, he's become more of a lord than you can possibly imagine.
Does his head get really
Walks
big?
around the house with his tail up, and if he doesn't like something, he pees.
In the shower or
in the
not
shower?
in the shower?
Yeah, we gotta make sure.
Generally on my bed.
Hmm.
And it's sort of quite penetrative. I mean, it's like a scene from Alien. It just goes straight away through all the various cupboards. And sort of, I don't want to be too specific.
So Bay would definitely pee in the shower.
Yeah,
is
you'd
what you're saying.
prefer he peed in the shower.
Yeah. I'm sure he would. Yes,
Aim for the
They
drain.
can barely turn the thing off. I mean, yeah.
I too have a cat, Tim, and so I need your advice. If I went on the circle, should I bring my cat with me? Was it a good experience?
It's a very good experience for you. It would be a very good experience for your cat. But I think if you don't have another cat, do you have another cat?
No, just one.
It would be fine. It would be a great bonding experience. My problem is that I have another older cat who's very frail, and she believes that she is the top cat. And Bay can't adjust to this fact again. So once you give a cat a better experience, they don't like to go backwards. So it's one of the problems with cat food at Christmas. The adverts give you a better cat food, and you think, oh, I'll make a little present of the cat of this special cat food for Christmas, and you give the cat that cat food, and then the cat won't look at anything less than that thereafter. And my goodness, you're then committed to that for the rest of the year.
Well, Tim, I was going to ask, what did you think about, we haven't seen any pets, no babies have been brought into the circle. Like, are these people slacking on bringing in all of these plus ones that they could?
I think it's very, 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 very difficult to bring a plus one onto the circle. But what might be interesting and what might be in store would be whether or not we get a plus one human being. Because that would be exciting.
Could you both play as one person, like
Well,
tag team it?
wouldn't it be exciting if for example, Seaburn's partner came in as Seaburn?
They could do the Big Brother twin quiz too. They could.
So he's playing Rachel, and Rachel is playing him, and they don't know. They don't realize.
Oh my God, that's like something out of like a Liam Neeson film. You turn onto the circle and you see your own face up there, but it's not you who's playing him.
Like, hey,
wait, guys, I think this might be a catfish, but I'm not going to explain why.
Yeah, it's the ultimate like mutually assured destruction, right? Because like if you are outing Seaburn, you're then revealing that you are not Rebecca. Unless you're like, I think I saw that guy somewhere. Yeah, he's a friend of mine.
That's my twin sister.
Yeah, the twin.
Well, it could be Rachel's twin sister, couldn't it?
Totally.
And Mike, to your point, I think probably the reason we're not seeing any pets or babies is because that's like I think the level of difficulty getting them there is much more because they're flying from the U.S.
Yeah, get them across the pond.
Yeah, who wants to deal with pets on a plane?
Nobody.
It's into really tricky territory if it's a snake.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why was I thinking of snakes there, Taran? I was thinking of snakes. My pet
Snakes
snake.
on the plane.
Megan wants to know who out of the circle castmates does Tim still keep in touch with?
Oh, am I allowed to say this? I keep in touch with most of them. I'm due to see people from the first circle. I'm due to see Freddie and possibly Alex in the next few days. I'm going to see Woody. I've been talking to Sai. Sai has named a cow after me, a bullock. And it's going to be a working bullock, so it's going to have at least 2 years of life before it goes to become a piece of steak. It's called Professor Tim Wilson. It's a proper working version of me. that moves. And so I've got to go down and see that. And I keep in touch with Ella. Many of the contestants. We're quite a close-knit group. And I'm sure the same thing is going to happen with the American group, because it's a unique experience. And you've got this very, very small group of people who've actually had that experience, and you share that.
Yeah. Our own Scott St. Pierre said, hot take, 8-player cast is a lot better than 16, 18, or 20. I can remember all the names and know who you're talking about. Mike, we're always talking about, who's the purple person? There's all these people on the show. We don't even know who they are. Yeah, it is very wild to have only just 8 people to keep track of at any given time, sometimes 7.
I mean, purple is so much not a color that Joey made sure to make his concoction brown, not even purple, when he made that rainbow cake. Like, purple does not exist in this. I mean, yeah, it's definitely easier to keep track of, and especially because it's such an interpersonal show. I think when you're dealing with like these very specific one-on-one relationships, I think 7 or 8 people is fine. I mean, we're still going to get a rotating door, though. I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of this, it ends up being probably 13 or 14 people total that are going to be in this cast overall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've got 2 questions that maybe somebody who's watching will be able to answer. Mercedes has got a hashtag for something like 178 or 175.
It's like, remember why you're here, I think it says, right? And then there's like a number on that on that little
maybe
board.
It's a area code.
718. That's the number.
718. That's it. I
That's
knew that was
the
a 7.
area code for the Bronx and the outer
Oh,
boroughs.
I see. Oh, okay, fine. So that's one. And the other thing is on Sammy's hand, I think. She's got some Greek letters. I saw a letter Omega.
That's probably her sorority. That's usually
Is it?
why people have tattoos of Greek letters.
I mean, if there's 3 of them, then it's most likely that, yeah.
All right, and there's something on her index finger, but I couldn't work out what that was. But I've been paying a lot of attention.
Okay. Well, all right. Let's see if you're paying attention to these clues in the edit. This is, look at that, Ben. Rob, I know you love talking about the edit. Do you think that Joey spilling the salt and calling out the bad luck is bad for his hashtag winner edit? Mike, should we be reading anything into this?
I mean, I feel like, I don't know, it's interesting because the British version of The Circle, it wasn't necessarily completely live, but it was pretty much like concurrently happening. This is all completely pre-taped. Through the winner reveal is all completely pre-taped. It was taped months ago. So they could feasibly string together a narrative. I just wonder, because they're following this British style of storytelling to a T, if they would want to do that. And I guess, would the question be then, is Joey going to lose because he spilled the salt? Is it that he's defying the salt's odds by winning it? I'm surprised he didn't put the salt in the cake to begin with.
Yeah.
I mean,
Jess, don't you have to like throw the salt over your shoulder?
That's what I've heard. But
Yeah.
I've seen people
burn it first.
I've seen people put salt in a cake on various baking competition shows, and it doesn't end well for them.
I put
just think
salt
it was
in a
funny.
cake.
I think he's just a stumble bum, and I think it was funny. I think that's why we got the salt. I don't think there's a deeper superstitious meaning to it. I think it was just funny.
It wouldn't surprise me in terms of the editing if because they do the UK version, somewhat live, that because they have that sort of production setup, that it wouldn't surprise me if they did something similar in terms of like their production line, right? Like, so they probably edit it as it's going in the same way that they do when they film the UK version. So I wouldn't be surprised if there is no winner's edit at all.
Okay, we'll see.
I think it's beautifully edited, by the way.
Yeah.
I love the when you're having a conversation, because I haven't really watched the version of The Circle that I'm on, so this is a sort of new experience for me, and rooting for people to win, and it's so easy to watch. It's such comfortable viewing.
Yeah.
Do you think maybe Joey didn't want to bring in a cat because he's afraid he'd bring in a black one and it would walk in front of him? He's just too superstitious of a person.
Oh my God, I just got bad luck. I broke a mirror too. Oh no.
Oh, there's a ladder in there now.
I stepped on a crack. I broke my mother's back. I love my mother. I can't do this. I'm going at double hell, super secret hell for Joey.
This is just like that time I had a naked picture of myself that I sent to people, and I don't want anybody to know about it, but I gotta be honest.
Oh my God, yes. His admissions are getting really quite extreme.
Yeah, no one's prompting him for it. He's like, he would be by far like the worst government agent ever. Like they just ask him how his day was. Like, yeah, here's what's going on in the Ukraine. I know what's happening.
But a treat in a confessional.
Oh, I mean, absolutely.
Yeah. Here, I've got a Joey clip from the episode.
Oh,
Shooby, you're a gentleman. I love you. I'd kiss your lips if I could, you stupid, handsome son of a bitch.
Don't you just love him?
He has zero chill. Like he's at 11 all the time.
Yeah, I would think that being anywhere with Joey is exhausting.
I don't want to hang out with him.
Coming out with my food anytime soon. I am starving over here.
I did find it extraordinary when he wanted to talk to Alana in the first episode. He promptly took off his top.
Yeah. I guess that's sort of like him, like preparing for game mode. Like that's his costume change.
Look, I gotta say, I took the shirt off. The flirting was not as successful as I would have liked. I'm willing to admit when I'm wrong, and I was wrong. I shouldn't have taken my shirt off.
It's part of the 75% of the time.
I really would have loved to see, though, Joey just sneak a little bit of a smooch to Shooby's picture on the TV because he was so close. He was complimenting him. They were really like, it's a will they, won't they between the TV screen and Joey that I feel like we're finally going to get that one moment happening soon.
Joey and Shooby's picture is the romance of the season.
I loved the like Joey's reaction to seeing Alana for the first time. No way she's real. No way. Don't believe it. I wish. I pray she's real, but no way. And then when she reveals herself in the message, he's like, I knew it. I said all along. I knew it from the start. What did I tell you?
Clearly, she's a doll brought to life by some magic. I've seen this before.
Yeah.
Kim Cattrall and Mannequin.
He had that wonderful line about I absolutely believe something. I'm 25% sure.
Yeah. I'm right like 25% of the time. This is definitely one of those times.
Yeah.
No, I love Joey because he's simultaneously those two doors that says one of us always lies and one of us always tells the truth. He just immediately contradicts himself, and it's so much fun to watch. He's an enigma.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if Joey is like has it down. This is the right way to go through life. Like I always want, don't say the wrong thing. Don't say the wrong thing. Be careful. Be careful. No, Joey says say whatever pops into your head to anybody
with
and
absolute conviction.
I think it's endearing.
But endearing. And he becomes more endearing as the series goes on. I would imagine him being very, very popular.
Oh boy.
He's great on television. I don't think I want to be in a room with him for more than about 5 minutes. But
I would be in a room with him. I think I would have to ask him about what is it, skincare. Actually, I think.
Yeah, I don't know if I would follow his regimen on the face.
Yeah.
Do you think he'd have any tips for beard care?
I don't know, Mike. Do we know? Does Joey have an active social media profile?
Oh, that's a good question. Let's check it out because I feel like.
Are you kidding me? I'm on Cameo right now.
Pay $30. I take off my shirt. Pay $10. I pay you $30 to take off my shirt. Now I have to look this up.
Yeah, he's on Twitter, but he's not
active. I feel like that would not be his ideal medium, Jess.
Well, he's thanking people for complimenting him.
Yeah,
well,
and he's retweeting a lot of people, but
he needs to get on Instagram. That's the thing.
Insta.
He's probably more active on Insta.
All right, no, he's on Insta right now. He has 8,589 followers. He has it's a lot of circle-based stuff. There is his second picture. Does not look like him. It's a weird.
It's fake.
It's a headshot of Joey. He's not smiling either. But then it's right next to him.
He's Antonioing it.
Is he smizing?
Sort of. He's sort of like he's like frizing. I suppose.
What's frizing?
Frownizing. Not to be confused with Antonio's method of cooking. It's also right next to the picture of him, like at wit's end, holding the picture of the bastardized cake in front of him with red frosting up to his elbow. So it looks like this man is so intense in his headshot, and it looks like he murdered somebody in the second picture. So
yeah, this is definitely something I saw on Dexter.
Yes, his cleaning.
I have a code.
That did look like he was cleaning up a murder scene, didn't it?
Yeah.
I got a dark passenger you wouldn't believe, okay?
Dokes, I didn't do it. I swear. Dokes, you stupid, handsome guy. I could kiss you.
I don't owe you a Michelin. It's not true.
All right. I'm all good for rebooting
Antonio?
Dexter with Joey as Dexter. I think we've settled on it.
All right.
The reboot I didn't know I needed.
Is that part of the breakfast making montage when I spilled the salt everywhere?
And he calls up Antonio for advice on poached eggs.
Oh my goodness.
Okay.
All
right.
Do we want to do time?
All right. So we are less than 2 weeks away from the winner reveal of the 3-week circle event on Netflix. Do you want to lock in a winner pick here with 2 weeks to go? Mike, who you got?
Oh, man. You know what? For the hell, I was thinking Shooby, but you know what? I'm going to make a last-minute push here, and maybe because he's at the top of my mind just now, I'm going to go with Joey.
Joey.
I feel like Joey made it through the biggest hurdle in those first few days. Like, I feel like if he rubs off the wrong way and there are new people, he has people to vouch for him. Like, no, Joey's a good guy. Like, don't worry about how he initially comes across. And I wonder if he's somebody who, especially if someone like Shooby ends up going before the finals, he can make a late push to, to victory. So I would not count him out. As much of a big character as he is, he might rival Tony Vlachos as the biggest winning character in reality TV history.
Okay. Jess, who you got?
I had somebody, and now I feel like Mike is kind of selling me on Joey. That makes a lot of sense, but I think I'm going to go ahead and go with Shooby here because I think Shooby has the most interesting arc, and I don't know if we're doing we've already said we don't think there's a winner's edit, but if anybody has one, it's him. He's the one who's got the most potential for growth and the person that comes in here the most quote unquote regular guy. And I think he's sort of like the audience stand-in here. And I think that's a compelling story that I think people want to get behind.
Okay. Taran, who you got?
It's tricky. It's tricky to pick a circle winner because of how the end game works, which is basically one final ranking. And that's it. There's no jury. There's no sort of momentum that can help you. You can be the most popular person every single week, but that does not mean that you're going to win the game. And so the person I'm looking for is the person I think is going to last the longest, meaning they get to the end, and then in the end be one of the lesser liked people that people think, okay, this is a safe person to put at number one because they're not going to win. That's the person I think is dangerous. And so I feel like I think Mercedes could be in that spot. I think Sammy could be in that spot, just kind of just good enough to stay in for a while, but not really in the top spots as of yet, and probably won't be for a little while because they both have a little bit of an edge to their personality that keeps some people from bonding with them. So those two, I think I'd watch out for.
Okay. All right. I'm going to go with, I said Chris in the first episode. I've seen nothing that makes me question that pick so far. So I'm going to stay with Chris. Mike, he was the first person that got introduced into the show. I feel like that's they always put somebody good up front at the top of the show.
No, but if he walked through the door first, is that a curse in the circle?
I don't know if this is a circle curse yet. But Chris, I think, has been consistently the person who everybody feels close with. I thought that another great thing that Chris did was when he got to add a second photo, he posted the the photo, which I think all but established, like definitely not a catfish. If you were catfishing, you would that would not be your second photo of you with I don't even know the right way to describe what the Chris's second photo, but I thought it was such a good second look for him that
totally.
would if he was a catfish, that's not what you would do for your second photo. So I think that nobody's questioning his authenticity. He's non-threatening. Everybody loves him. I'll go with Chris. Tim.
I'm thinking very much of what Taran was saying, because it's sort of
the rules
that I would have said as well. And having been through it, I know at that last vote, there's a lot of tactical voting going on, and I think people tend to put their first choice is somebody who they think is not threatening, and that's the person who oddly ends up winning. My thought is that if Rebecca gets through the next few weeks or gets through the next few episodes, and deals with the possibility that she is going to be exposed, I think I think she's a definite contender. I think who should win it is Shooby, but I think because of that tactical voting, I think it's unlikely. It'd be wonderful if he did. My thought is probably Rebecca.
That's a great choice.
All right. We'll see how it plays out. All right. It'll be Wednesday or Tuesday at after midnight Pacific time when 4 new episodes will drop. And then Taran will have recaps of episodes 5, 6, 7. And then we'll be back 1 week from tonight with another roundtable. But it will be tough to top this one, which was very fun. I've been reading the chat. Everybody seemed to enjoy it. And it seemed like it was very, very fun. Tim, thank you for joining us. This was such a nice surprise.
I hope you'll have me back again, because this has been an absolute loss. I'll try and make sure my electricity is a little bit more reliable.
Yes.
So listen,
it was
Tim,
touch and go for a minute.
Whether you were on text or voice, you were divine. So we were happy to have you here.
Yes. But thank you for staying up late, and I know that so many people appreciated getting to hear from you tonight.
Yeah, I would do it again and again. It's really wonderful. I think it's a great show, and we want as many people to watch it as possible. Really, I think.
Okay, all right, Mike, what do you have going on?
So I'll Jess can definitely talk about the Star Trek stuff that we are doing on post-show recaps. Also on post-show recaps, Josh Wigler and I are going down the hatch with our episodic Lost rewatch podcast. We are almost done with season 1, but that has been a ton of fun. If you're looking for something else to binge during your Survivor off season between Circle episodes, we have plenty of hours of footage waiting for you. And speaking of the Circle, I actually should have an interview up, I'll say tomorrow afternoon, with Tim Harcourt, who was one of the creators of the British Circle, who has also been working on the American version, also the French and Brazilian versions, which have also premiered on Netflix. So I got to talk to him a bit about the origins behind the Circle UK, what it was like adapting it for the US. Really interesting conversation. So check out parade.com for all that. And you could always follow me at a Mike Bloom type to check out the general shenanigans that I'm usually up to.
Okay. Jess, how about you?
Well, this Mike Bloom character and I are doing some coverage over on post show recaps. We are covering Picard, and we did an episode. We actually recorded it yesterday, so I've been very busy this week. We're talking about kind of giving you a sense of what you should go back and watch in Star Trek: The Next Generation if you're getting ready to watch Picard when it premieres in 3 weeks. And then shortly we will be watching all of the short treks that have dropped on CBS All Access in the interim, and talk about what that means for the upcoming season of Star Trek Discovery. Somewhere down the line, Josh Wigler and I will be talking Walking Dead, and over on primetimer.com, I frequently contribute feature articles, and those can be about just about anything, and they're a lot of fun.
Just when is the Picard premiere?
Mike, when is that?
January 23rd.
Thank you.
Oh, it's sneaking up. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And Taran, how about you?
Plenty of stuff for you guys to check out. I talked about Star Wars with Brent, who's in the chat right now. Recently, you can check that out on post-show recaps. I'm also talking about Sequester with Brent every Monday. There's going to be some end-of-the-year Big Brother podcasts coming your way soon. You can also find me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Taran Armstrong. I plan on just doing a series of streams, and you can also find them. I'll put them up on YouTube as well. Find my YouTube channel where I'm just going to talk about my favorite stuff of the year, TV shows, movies, books, etc. So tune in for that. Check that out. You can find me on Twitter @ArmstrongTaran. And of course, make sure you also find my interview with Freddie Bentley from season 1 of The Circle that I did for the Taran Show, that you can find as well on wherever you do the podcasts. This is the Taran Show. It's the Taran Show. Yeah. So,
all right. Of course, you can catch Taran's updates of the next 3 episodes of The Circle when they drop in our Circle podcast feed as well. robhaswebsite.com/Circle podcast for that. I just recorded a 3.5-hour interview with the great Nora Salman. Spent the entire morning talking with Nora. It was wonderful. A lot of fun there. Got a couple of Survivor 39 interviews coming up, and then we're going to get into our season 40 coverage of Survivor Winners at War. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast feed for all of that. And of course, for plenty of chat about The Circle in our Facebook patron group, access to our patron podcast feed and more, head on over to robhasawebsite.com/patron. Thank you all for joining us here tonight. We'll be back next Thursday for another Circle Roundtable at the end of week 2. Take care, everybody. Have a good one. Bye.